video is part 2 of my pineal cystic tumor journey. If you haven't watched part 1, I highly suggest you do so. I will make sure to link it in my YouTube description, and those videos are also on my Instagram Reels. This video will be about my journey to Texas, what happened before and after surgery, and what my recovery process was overall. Today marks 9 months post-op from brain surgery. It's kind of crazy how fast time flies. The road to finding a doctor to help me was not an easy one whatsoever. When I originally found out about the tumor, I was told it wasn't anything to worry about. It wasn't the cause of my 55 plus symptoms. I knew that I needed to get a second opinion, which turned into 4th, 5th, and 6th medical opinion. Cleveland Clinic and Mayo Clinic, they both had their entire tumor board on conference calls with me, and there was zero help, zero treatments or medications. There was nothing that they could offer me to give me a better quality of life. It was just bad news after bad news. I've never felt so lost and hopeless, because you kind of expect doctors to know what to do and to help you. I mean, no matter what. Lo and behold, there's this amazing Facebook group, thousands and thousands of members. Post after post was, this doctor had saved my life. He gave me my life back. I don't have headaches anymore. I'm not sick. I'm not bedridden. That group forever changed my life. Thank you to my Dr. Kim. I'm gonna put a picture right here. About 10 years ago, he started becoming a specialist in pineal cyst and pineal tumors. Took on some patients, saw that he could actually help people. There are only 3 specialists in the United States who really even perform these surgeries, a full craniotomy. There are maybe a handful of other surgeons who perform them endoscopically. The reason that I did not want to go with that approach, because more often than not, the cysts or tumors end up reoccurring or refilling back up, because what they do endoscopically is go in and poke a bunch of holes into the cyst. This way, in hopes that the fluid will dissipate and it won't grow. The procedure was derailed numerous times because of COVID-19, hurricanes, travel restrictions, hospital bed shortages. I mean, you name it. It happened to me. Been down there for my pre-op appointment a day before surgery, and they told me they might have to cancel my appointment due to extreme flooding from a previous hurricanes. But thankfully, as of August of 2020, everything went smoothly and I went into the OR. Looking back, I don't really know how I survived that all, because for the most part, I was by myself. I went down to Texas by myself. Thankfully, I had my sister there with me for a pre-op appointment, and then my aunt and my grandma and Nick came in a few days later. But due to COVID, I wasn't allowed any visitors, so that was really hard. Just not being able to advocate for yourself. You know, you're really messed up from the drugs. Of course, I was keeping in touch with my family on the phone, but no one was actually there and seeing how I was and really checking in on me. So when I was first discharged, I mean, I thought I felt fine, but apparently when I got in the car, my aunt and my grandma were like, I do not know why she was just discharged. Like, I just looked sick, I guess. And then, of course, I had some trembling and chills that happened a couple hours later. I tried to eat a dinner just to get something in my stomach. But the thing is, in the hospital, I was on IV fluids and medication. And when I was released, I hadn't been on any oral medications at all. So my stomach really couldn't handle it. And then this kind of snowballed into something else. So after dinner that night, after being discharged, I take all my meds, getting ready for bed, and hour by hour, I'm just not feeling okay. Like, first the chill started, then I had a fever, then it was nausea, and then I was like, oh God, I'm gonna throw up. And throwing up is like one of the worst things. I just feel like it's so violent and it's awful. And at that point, it was probably 4 or 5 in the morning. I was so sick. I couldn't talk, walk, open my eyes. I was just a mess. So my aunt was like, put her foot down, because I was like, I'm not going back to the hospital. Like, I will just push through and figure this out. And she was like, I called the ambulance, it's on the way. And honestly, thank God for her, because I don't know if I'd be here right now. All of that's kind of a blur, but I do remember getting admitted to the hospital and they run numerous amount of tests on me. It was then that I experienced truly the worst day of my life. No one could really figure out what's going on. Everyone was poking and prodding me. I got a spinal tap, which was extremely painful, and it showed that I had an infection in my blood and that my CSF levels, which is cerebral spinal fluid, was off the charts. It was like 36 or 37, and a normal range is around like 10 to 13. So they had to work on getting that down. And at that point in the day, it's probably like noon, 1. I, haven't eaten because I've just been throwing up. I haven't slept. Going through like all this stuff of just having brain surgery 4 days ago. And then my back of my head where my incision is, it was throbbing so bad. I just started crying because I couldn't even touch my head to a pillow, the bed, nothing. They had to get me in for a CT. I could not lay down for the CT scan. I screamed. Oh my gosh, it gives me chills to this day. I was just like in the bed dying, and bless my aunt's heart, I'm sure she was a mess. It's just like when you have so much pain, like your body physically couldn't handle it. Like my soul wanted to jump out of my body or something, because I was literally laying in bed like shaking like this and just like, help me, I can't do this. After all that testing, it's probably like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and they find out that I'm severely allergic to one of the pain meds that they gave me, and it was just wreaking havoc on my body. So then I was admitted to the hospital again and spent 3 more awful, unfortunate days there until I could be released on my own. They had to make sure that I could tolerate oral meds and that I was stable on my own so that I could be sent home and not come back. My hospital stay overall is pretty blurry. I do remember a few vivid memories here and there. The most memorable one was when they were wheeling me back into the operating room. It was the most terrifying moment of my life, because I knew in just a few moments they were about to put me under. They were going to cut into my brain, and I did not know what the future looked like after that. They moved me from the tables, got me all hooked up to everything, and then as I was laying there, that's when I noticed this beautiful, huge mural on the ceiling. I mean, it took over the whole ceiling. And it was all these butterflies, so gorgeous. Like, okay, I can go to sleep to this. My first memory is my eyes fluttering open, and my first thought was, check and see if that obliterating pressure and pain is still in your head. It was literally gone. And that's like the story I have heard from everybody, especially on the support groups. People were like, I woke up and instantly my migraine was gone, and I didn't have this insane pressure in my head where it felt like, you're underwater 100 feet and you just feel like it's gonna explode. I was like, oh, you can't really get normal that fast. Like, you can't get relief that fast, right? And it was so true. I just started bawling. I didn't even know anyone was with me in the ICU room. And this nurse rushes over to me. Oh my God, are you okay? And I'm like, the pain is gone. I had a year-long migraine that we could not break. I have tried everything under the sun. And that's what did it. Apparently, I had made like a zillion FaceTime calls. Can't remember a word I said. I remember bits and pieces of me walking and eating hospital food and watching Fixer Upper and Chopped. The first couple weeks I did have to walk with the assistance of my family members. It was like so weird how just like a few days ago I was normal, and then I get released and I can't really walk on my own. And things like showering. Wow, I used to take showers for granted, and then all of a sudden I couldn't shower for a week. And then once I finally could get my head wet, I was like literally life-changing. By the end of our stay in Texas, at around the 2-week mark, I was up to walking 3 times a day by myself, which was like a huge win. It was crazy, just the progression I had so quickly. And then I had my 2-week post-op appointment where I got my stitches out and I got the clearance to fly back home. They said they are like fully confident that the surgery was successful and that it should resolve any and all symptoms that I have. The insomnia thing is really the only remaining symptom that I have, which I'm seeing a sleep specialist for. I've done a couple sleep studies, and trying some new therapies and medications. So we'll see how that goes, but they do say it takes about a year for your brain to start making melatonin on its own, because the pineal gland secretes melatonin, which it controls your sleep-wake cycle. And they think that I was most likely born with this cyst, which turned into a cystic tumor as I age, with like calcifications and part tumor characteristics. So that's probably why I've never slept good. And now I'm actually able to get a few hours of sleep every night. I'm still not really getting good REM sleep. It's very restless, but hopefully by August of this year, I will actually be able to sleep through the night. And there's also only a 5% chance of this ever reoccurring. So that is really good odds, and I'll take it, because many of you know that my quality of life before this was extremely poor. So anything other than that is a win in my eyes. Our 16-hour travel day actually went a lot smoother than I thought. I mean, I had everything you can imagine. I had, first class seat on the way home so that I could get on first, get off first, not be next to anybody. And because of my head bandage and the wheelchair, everyone was like, oh my gosh, whatever she needs. So it made traveling a whole lot easier. If you're going through something like this and you're going to spend your money on anything, 100% hands down, get first class. It was so worth it just to have that comfort. Now we're home, and the next 2 months is all about recovering, relaxing, and making sure that I get what I need to make it through this. I also knew that I only had one chance to recover from brain surgery, and it's like the most important and imperative recovery. Like, if you push yourself too quick or overwhelm yourself, you can do more damage, and the repercussions are awful. So I was very strict about making sure that I stayed off my phone, TV, computer, any kind of screens. Pineal gland sits right on top of your optic nerve, so once they're going in to resect the tumor, it can kind of affect your optic nerves, and screens are a really big thing that create headaches, create vision issues, and I just did not want to experience any more of that, because those were some of my major symptoms pre-op. Just having like side-by-side vision at all times, being really blurry over the course of like a few months. It just kept getting worse and worse, and all of a sudden I needed actual glasses, which before I've always had 20/20 vision. So there's just a lot of things I experienced in a short amount of time, and it was really hard to not check my phone, to like not even give myself 5 minutes of time. But it did get to a point where I was like, okay, I just have to put on like a feel-good TV show or movie I could just have play in the background and like close my eyes or do a coloring book. I mean, I crushed a lot of coloring books and did a lot of crafts, but it was really great, because it's like I haven't been able to do that in a long time. It wouldn't be my life though if there wasn't some other kind of bad luck right around the corner. Suddenly, I noticed one morning that my head was like extremely tender and raw. At first, I chalked it up to nothing, and then I was like, maybe I got a slight sunburn when I was out walking and forgot to wear my hat or something. It's getting a lot of scabs, or it would be flaking or peeling skin, and then a rash just kept spreading all over my head and neck. After a week of this torture, okay, I have to call my doctor. Like, I hate bothering people, but I was like, I don't know what else to do here. And she sent me to a derm who ended up saying that I was allergic to Neosporin. So after another 3 weeks of me taking some antibiotics and applying a topical steroid cream, it finally started dissipating. And then it took like another few weeks for all of the scabbing and flaking to really stop. So that was not a fun complication, I will say. 2 months flew a lot faster than I thought, and suddenly I had to go back to work. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Like, I did not feel ready enough to take my position back and be successful at it. So I just knew I was coming back to a lot of responsibilities, and I'm an overachiever and a perfectionist. So it's like, no matter what, I have to perform well and do good work, even though I might be like suffering really bad inside and just feel like absolute shit. First week I went back, it was hell. I barely made it to lunch most days, as my energy levels were completely depleted. Little by little, I would be able to last at work longer. I was able to get through a full day, and then 3 days and then a week without having to call off. It didn't take much for me to get overwhelmed, as my brain just could not handle the overload. I would say it took about 3 months for me to be able to work full-time and get through the work week. And then eventually I was able to work full-time and even pick up freelance work on the side. Something that I didn't think I'd be able to do for like a full year after brain surgery. And there's just so many times where I was sure I was gonna give up. Like, how could I keep going? And somehow I still kept going, and I'm still here. And you know, I hope if anything that gives you inspiration. If you're struggling with something, if you're going through your own health issue, if you have a brain tumor yourself, keep going, don't give up. Like, there was a lot of people along the way who doubted me, who were like, you need to listen to the doctor. Like, you don't know my struggles. You don't know what I live with. You don't see what goes behind closed doors. You don't know my pain. And I hope that the hardest thing that I've ever went through inspires or helps you in some way. I'm gonna roll this next video, which kind of goes over my journey from Texas, before and after brain surgery, and what my recovery was overall. Enjoy. I'm 5 hours post-op and I'm feeling better than ever, which is crazy considering I just got my brain cut open. I obviously have pain in the back of my head where they cut it open, but other than that, there's no pain right here. I don't have eye pain. There's not like this fullness in my head anymore, or where all the pressure felt like my head was gonna explode every day. And I think the best part, besides the no migraine, is no nausea. I've literally been extremely nauseous, 24/7 nauseous for the past year. And I was really convinced that I would be nauseous today for obvious reasons, but nope. I'm about to order some room service, you know? Thinking pasta and broccoli and some ice cream because my throat does hurt. But all in all, day one. Let's see. Hi guys, day 2. And honestly, I'm still feeling better than I have the past few years. But yeah, I also just brushed out my hair. We still got some length, guys, but there was like 5 heaps of hair just falling on the floor. It was kind of alarming, but I know hair grows back and it's gonna be fine. But other than that, we are ready to leave tomorrow. I just brushed out my hair for the first time, and look at this. Goodbye, long hair. I miss you. Day 3. We are doing much better than yesterday. It was a very rough night and afternoon with just an intense amount of pain that wasn't being held up on a regimen that I was supposed to. And so the nausea started to kick in, and really I'm just exhausted because I haven't slept in 2 weeks really good because of my anxiety. And of course you can't really sleep here because they're checking in on you every 2 hours, but
besides that, I'm actually feeling much better than yesterday, and I get to go home in an hour. I'm at 2-week post-op today, and honestly feeling pretty good. I'm on my second walk of the day. I'm really tired though, as you can see from these designer bags. I did hit my head today on the fridge, so that's kind of a bummer because now my head hurts a little bit more than it did. So I just need to be more careful and take things slow. 18-day post-op, and honestly, I'm crushing it, or at least trying to. Every day is kind of a home challenge. It's just kind of taking it day by day and realizing my limits and knowing when to just rest. I'm so upset. I ended up getting a sunburn yesterday. It hurts so bad. Today is not a good day. I'm just so frustrated. It feels burning, stinging, tingling. It's raw, very red. It's like peeling but dry. I don't know. I've never dealt with this. Realizing that it's not going away. It's actually getting worse, not better. So that's where I'm getting frustrated, because at first I was nervous that it was some kind of infection or maybe something fungal, but I've been taking such diligent care of it. Like, I'm really OCD about that kind of stuff. I think I found out what is going on with this rash on my head and neck. Apparently, the derm thinks that I'm allergic to Neosporin. I've used Neosporin my entire life. Granted, I haven't used it on my head and neck as much as I have the last month, but she's thinking that that's what's causing the reaction. So I've been given a topical steroid that's supposed to help really dry it out and hopefully heal it. So. Week 7, we're getting there. 1 month post-op. It feels so good to say that, but also it's kind of crazy just to think that 4 weeks ago I was going through the most extreme, tough, crazy, scary experience ever. I never want to go back to that place. But just to think where I've come since then. I mean, pre-surgery, I was literally here on my deathbed, and now it's different, it's better, but there are limitations. I mean, you have to think that 4 weeks ago, I had my head in a craniotomy with clamps on either side, and they literally cut open my scalp took a piece of bone out, removed that, took my brain, retracted it, got into a look to the pineal region. Then they ended up going in, dissecting it. It was so huge they had to take out the entire pineal gland. And then I woke up and I was expected to get it going, get it moving, start walking the next day, out of ICU, into recovery, and then released. I don't think I should have been released though. I ended up submitting a survey and also telling the doctors at a post-op appointment just that I was not okay to leave. And I think the major issue was that because of COVID, I couldn't have anybody with me. I was literally by myself. I had no advocate, nobody to demand things for me. I literally had no idea what to ask for or what I needed. My dad had to call at like 11 p.m. one night and demand that somebody give me pain medication and something for anxiety because I was literally having tremors and was doing so bad. If I had my aunt with me who is a nurse, then I would have been fine. I probably would have had to stay another day, but then I would have been able to handle my oral meds and I wouldn't have got so sick. That's what I needed, was an advocate, just someone to fight for me because I'm barely alive, fighting for my life. Like, I couldn't even talk. I couldn't form words. So they weren't going to get any information out of me. And that's kind of how I was in ICU and recovery. Like, I was just so out of it. So I just don't think I even looked okay to leave. And I really feel like they should have kept me another day. So that's kind of where all the issues lie. I'm so thankful. Shout out to Aunt Chris. You are literally superwoman, and my grandma for taking care of me and holding down the fort. I don't know what I would do without you guys, and I'm so glad you were there because I know I'm too stubborn and I would not have went back to the hospital. So thank you for saving my life.